Hey folks, it's Nate, and it's time I got back to the drawing board, and today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk a little bit about My Hero Academia Chapter 316, which just dropped today. In fact, I finished reading it about an hour ago, and I've been mulling over what happened in it quite a bit. So, I do want to talk about it, but it's going to involve some spoilers. If you haven't read the chapter yet, or if you're one of those weird anime only people, um, come back once. If you're an anime only person, you're gonna have to wait a while before you watch this if you want to be spoiler free. If you don't mind spoilers, by all means stick around. If you're a manga reader, I would highly recommend reading the chapter before we discuss it because it's gonna make more sense with that full context. So here's about 10 seconds to pause the video and go read it and then come back and we can talk about it. Okay, it's more like 5 seconds, but let's get to it. I want to talk about All for One's declaration that it's your turn, speaking specifically to Deku. And I am fascinated by how this mirrors All Might's declaration that you're next, again, speaking to Deku. And this does something that very few, very few American superhero comics have done, and that is have the villains acknowledge the hero's place as earned. And part of this is because My Hero Academia is a story about inheritance, it's about succession, it's about Deku's place as the next natural step in All Might's heroic legacy. And part of it is because of Horikoshi's specifically Japanese opinion or perspective on how people find their place in society. And I think both of these are excellent. Deku's character growth through the entire story is an examination of not just what it means to be a hero, but how heroes interact with the society around them. This is not done in the very superficial way of a lot of comics from, say, the 90s, where superheroes had endorsements, or they had toy lines, or they were on TV and talk radio. All of those things happen in My Hero Academia. But, as Stain the Hero Killer showed, that is not actually the important part of a hero's relationship with society. Heroes have to be seen as a legitimate part of capturing criminals and bringing them to trial, or integrating them into the justice system in some way or another, depending on how your justice system works in your culture and in your government, et cetera, et cetera. And fundamentally, that means there must be some kind of consent or agreement received from the public. In America, we would say this is the government drawing its consent from the governed. Of course, heroes are not exactly the government, they are government contractors, but they are still granted their legitimacy from their working directly with the police or the government. So, in that respect, I think it's safe to consider them an arm of the government, even if they are not a compulsory one, I suppose you could say. Heroes do have some level of freedom in the kinds of cases they take, it seems. That said, they are still government contractors. They still require a license and these other symbols of the populace's acceding to their place in society. So Deku's attempts to become All Might's successor have taken on, so far, two forms. They've taken on the form of Deku trying to prove himself to All Might, which we saw in basically the first couple of chapters. Deku goes through saving Bakugo from the slime monster, and then clearing the beach of trash, and a couple of other things to prove that he is worthy to take on the mantle of All Might's successor. He also has to earn the approval of society at large, which is why he's going through UA Academy, why he's trying to get his provisional hero's license and his actual hero's license, etc. In that respect, he is trying to earn the approval of society. So he's trying to earn specific approval from the hero who has empowered him to do his job. He's trying to earn the approval of the society he works for. What Horikoshi has just done is he has also showed that in order to be effective as All Might's successor, he requires the acknowledgement of the villains as well. And that is very interesting because a running theme in My Hero Academia, in addition to this theme of inheritance, is the theme of being a defender, being a shield, or being a symbol, specifically the symbol of peace. In his novel series, Wearing the Cape, Marion G. Harmon says that superheroes wear the costumes they wear so that they are identifiable at a glance. They want people who are in high-stress situations to be able to look around and see the person in the bright, colorful costume with the cape and all the fancy accessories and know, oh, that's the guy who's here to help me out. That's the guy I'm going to be safe around. When they're in the middle of a hurricane, they want to be able to look around and immediately pick out the person who's coming to rescue them. They want to be able to tell that they're not dealing with a supervillain who have their own fashion accessories and etc. And that is why heroes wear costumes. That's reason one. Reason two is to let the villains know there is a hero on the scene and they have bigger worries than just doing whatever caper they are partaking in, robbing a bank, carrying out a murder or something like that. They want them to stop doing that, focus on the hero. The symbol of peace is the societal equivalent to a superhero's costume, as Marion G. Harmon defines it. Tells people, yes, there is a part of society that is dedicated to helping you in these incidents that only superhero people can respond to, or not superheroes, superpowered people can respond to. It also serves as a warning to the villains that there is someone on the scene who is more important than whatever self-serving actions you are taking, because if you don't deal with or escape from this symbol of peace, your self-serving actions will have no meaning. And the moment that Deku ceased being a UA student and took his first major step to achieving that half of his role as the symbol of peace is the moment that All For One looked at him and said, it's your turn. You are now the thing I have to deal with in order to get what I want. And by mirroring it with the moment All Might said, you're next, it is your turn to take on the mantle of the symbol of peace, Horikoshi is telling us both of these pieces are now in place. The question, whether Deku can bear up under that burden. That is great storytelling, because Horikoshi has mirrored these things in order to really drive home the point that Deku has to be able to do both of these things in order to be the symbol of peace. We know that throughout the story, Deku has been most fascinated with All Might's ability to save people. He wants to save people. He was most inspired by the video of All Might saving people in some kind of horrible accident early in his career. And he has always been most gifted at spotting the people who need help and reaching out to them and connecting with them. However, he has generally lacked the killer instinct necessary to destroy villains credibly. He has never posed a threat that says, if you ignore me, you're not going to be able to get away with what you're trying to do. And the person who's really driven that home for him has been, of course, his arch rival, Bakugo. Bakugo is obsessed with winning. He is that threat to any supervillain he comes across. If you can't beat Bakugo, he's gonna knock you senseless and drag you to jail. That is his raison d'etre. That is what he exists to do. And we are now seeing that Deku getting some of that edge. He's being acknowledged by the villains as something that must be defeated. Now, partly that is because, of course, All for One wants one for all, the quirk that Deku has, and wants to steal it and use it for his own purposes. Only Deku has to be willing to give it up in order for it to be transferred, or he has to get close enough to All for One that All for One can attempt to steal it. As I understand it, that part of the lore is a little bit unclear. But what All for One has acknowledged now is that even though it's true, yes, he has to get his hands on Deku in order to get what he wants, he has now recognized that Deku himself is the chief obstacle to that being possible. I think that's really great mirrored storytelling. It really shows how the themes in My Hero Academia are reaching their climax. And I look forward to seeing what the final outcome of this will be. It's been pretty well written so far, and I'm excited to see the end. So I think in that, Horikoshi has really succeeded in casting this arc for Deku is very compelling. And I hope that in the future, when I try and write these kinds of stories, I can find those kinds of moments that really tie all of the pieces together. Because, man, it's really impressive what he's done so far. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully you will find something useful in that. You can let me know if you did down in the comments below. If you like this video, there's a like button and a subscribe button. You can use as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.